So before I get started with this video, I must point out that I am not a lawyer. I don't even play one on TV or YouTube. But I am an American citizen, so that gives me a right to talk about things that I'm upset about. Even if I don't understand the law in its entirety and all the details and on and on and on. It's funny. Second Amendment absolutist will come onto my channel, make a comment telling me to shut up because I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm exercising my First Amendment. And that's what bothers me about our country, the people in our country, is they don't understand that all my rights are available to me, not just some. So as you know, I don't have a lot of firearms. I used to, but I really downsized to just 22s, a shotgun. I have a 30-06, just a few guns that I have. And the one I carry around is a 22 SR22. It's a Ruger SR22. I know a lot of people think I'm nuts for having this as my carry gun, but I would imagine nobody wants to be shot by it. And the nice thing about this is I can carry it around the yard. I can tear it up. It's not that terribly expensive. Ammo is cheap. I can practice all the time. Heck, I can just come out and play with it without worrying about going broke. If I see a squirrel, I did it on video the other day. I can shoot a squirrel out in the backyard. Oh, there's a squirrel. Now I got lunch. It's a handy firearm to have, but apparently it's getting tough in this country to own a firearm. So I mentioned that the ATF, in a video, I don't know, a couple months ago, I mentioned that the ATF is trying to pass a regulation. I know, I said law in that video, and ATF can't make laws. Well, they can throw you in jail, whether it's a law or not. So, I'm going to call it a law. It doesn't matter. What difference does it make? It's semantics. They want to make it where if I sell a gun for a profit, that I have to have an FFL license, a dealer's license. Well, that's supposed to go through the Supreme Court, and a lot of people seem to think that the Supreme Court is going to make changes. And the Supreme Court is absolutely doing a fantastic job when it comes to the Second Amendment. Got all kinds of cases, the Bruin decision, the Heller decision, excellent decisions. But who's enforcing them? A president who doesn't like guns. So he's not listening. And since the Supreme Court doesn't have a law enforcement branch, Congress is supposed to do that. The president can do whatever they want. So for example, I just want to point this out just to be clear. So basically, the Supreme Court has made gun rights so easy in this country that it's hard to argue that we don't have a right as individuals to own firearms. But Illinois, kind of in the dark, in the shadows, on a holiday weekend, that kind of thing, passed a law that said everybody who owns an AR-15 has to have it registered by a certain date. But they didn't advertise it. Well, then something happened and it became public knowledge, and now everybody's having to go register their firearms. Well, people aren't doing it. They didn't know about the law, or doesn't have time, or don't know how to do it. It didn't go through public opinion, public debate. Nobody got to call in and say, hey, I don't like this law, and nothing like that. So they're going to implement it. Well, there was an emergency hearing with the 7th District Court that said, we would like to wait on this registration until we can sue Illinois to stop this law. They just want to wait. They don't want everybody having to go register just to find out that, oh, we don't have to register after it goes through the court process. And this kind of happens all the time in courts. They'll say, there's a law, we're going to sue. Well, it's going to take longer to sue than for the implementation of the law, so can we wait on the law? And yeah, sure, that usually happens like that. But the court made up some of the most incredible determinations as to no, people still need to register their firearms even though there's a lawsuit pending. So what they basically said, again, I'm not a lawyer and I know all the scholars on the Second Amendment are going to know everything about this, but I don't need to. All I need to know is I'm mad about it. So what they said was the AR-15 is not covered in the Second Amendment because it mimics, looks like the AR-16, which is a military-grade weapon. The court even admitted that the AR-15 can only be shot in semi-automatic mode, whereas the AR-16 can be shot in semi-automatic or automatic. So there's some distinct differences between the two firearms, but they said it's a weapon of war, and the Second Amendment does not cover weapon of war. Of course, they said in the Second Amendment, a well-established militia. So, yeah. So my point is what difference does it make? States are still going to pass laws. I mean, even after the Bruin decision, where they said everybody can conceal and carry, it's going to, every state, every citizen can do that. And states are just rewriting their laws, so what they're going to do is they'll make it just as strenuous as it was before to get a conceal and carry license, and then they'll just have to be sued again. That's all it is. It just continuously gets sued. They just change it, tweak it a little bit. Okay, yeah, we changed it. And then somebody will have to sue because they can't get their conceal and carry license, even though Bruin said they could. So, no, the Supreme Court doesn't have any power. Of course, there's a lot of complaints about the Supreme Court when they do something. So this was a pretty devastating situation. Now, of course, the AR-15 will end up going through the 7th District or whoever, it doesn't matter. It'll go through the 7th District, and they will determine that the AR-15 is not legal in the state of Illinois. Then it'll go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court say, oh, yes, it is. And then Illinois will rewrite their law to say, no, it's not. And then it'll go through the whole process again. This is just the way it works. This is why California still has some of the most restrictive laws on the books when it comes to guns, even though the Second Amendment has clearly been identified, established. I mean, I watch this YouTube channel all the time, every day for the last 6 or 7 years. And he talks about the Bruin decision almost on a daily basis now that it has passed. And he talks about California should be able to get their firearms. They should be able to protect themselves. And no, they can't, because California is still not giving out firearm licenses, permits, very easily. Again, I don't know all the laws. I know how Missouri works. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up is the ghost gun. Oh, that's such a scary term, the ghost gun. And it's absolutely frightening. Oh my gosh, people are making guns at home. Oh, we got to stop this. And what it is somebody used tax dollars to determine a scary phrase so everybody will be scared of these guns that people are making. It is totally legal, according to the federal government, to make your own homemade gun without a serial number. Federal law says it is. Now, there's many states that don't allow it. Missouri happens to be a state that allows you to make your own guns. 3D printers. Now, back in the day, 20 years ago, I don't remember how long ago it was, 10 years ago, when I first heard of 3D printers, the first thing they made the connection to was ghost guns. They're going to make guns and they're going to bring them on airplanes and it's going to be terrorists in the skies. Well, of course, we haven't seen any of that, but apparently there's mass shootings daily from 3D printed guns. Now, a 3D printer, is my understanding, I don't own one, always wanted one, they can make a lot of stuff. I'm familiar with what's called a CNC. A CNC, you put a block of metal, well, yeah, I guess you could put a block of anything in it, but you put a block of metal in a machine, and a drill bit comes around and it starts making designs and all kinds of things based off a computer blueprint. So there's a computer attached to it, and this thing's going around cutting out the holes, and it's neat. I remember the first time I ever saw a CNC. The guy who was running it made me a Cardinals baseball bat out of aluminum. It was a keychain. It was about that big. It was the first time I ever seen it. It was back in 92 or 3. So they're pretty neat machines. Now, you can take that machine, just like a 3D printer, I assume, and you could make your own gun out of it. You could make a frame, and you're able to get into CAD. It's a program where you can draw and design things, and then you put that CAD drawing into the CNC machine, and it starts cutting. It's fascinating stuff. I worked with CAD for a while, but it was way over my head. I really would like to go to school. Well, back in the day, I would have liked to have gone to school to do it. But you could make your own gun there. And nobody was scared of CNC machines, because CNC machines make this world a better place. Everything seems to be designed with CNCs. Carolyn and I worked for a company a few years ago. They had a CNC machine. Now, think about this. We worked for a company, it was called the Sheltered Workshop, who hired disabled employees so we could teach them how to work in a manufacturing environment. So we had a disabled employee running a machine that was creating really cool stuff. So then we would go over to 3D printers, and somebody makes a plastic gun, and this is the worst thing in the world, according to politicians, because that's what I remember back in the day. They were talking about ghost guns, and that's what they were talking about. Well, the definition has now expanded. Of course it's going to expand. They take little nibbles at a time and see if you bite, and of course we all bit. Oh no, plastic guns, that's terrible. And now it's all homemade guns, even though the federal law allows us to make ghost guns. See, I said it. To make homemade guns. You can buy things off eBay, the parts and the components. Apparently it's legal. I don't know. I think it's legal. So you can buy these components and you can build your own gun. And none of this needs serial numbers or anything. And this just sounds so scary. Oh my gosh, we're going to have guns without serial numbers. Well, in a country that allows you to own things, you don't need serial numbers. I just watched a video of a lawyer, and he was representing a guy who had seizures, so they wouldn't allow him to drive. So he walked everywhere. And many times he walked to his favorite hunting spot with his AR-15 strapped to his shoulder. All the neighbors knew him. Everybody knew what he was doing. Well, somebody called him in one time while he was going hunting, and the police came and stopped him. And he said, I want to see your ID. Have I committed a crime, officer? No. I need to see your ID. Well, why do you need to see my ID? Because you're carrying a gun. Well, let me ask you this question. Because he lost the case. Because the jury, there was a lawsuit against the sheriff. The jury thought, well, in this case, since it was an AR-15 and we're all scared of AR-15s, he doesn't really have a right to proceed down the road without committing crimes and not to be harassed by police officers. Then if you think that guy should have been stopped and questioned and ID'd, then when you're walking down the road with a soda in your hand, then the police should stop you and ask you for your ID because you might be walking around with a beer. It's suspicious. What if you're smoking a cigarette? Oh, there could be something inside that cigarette we need to investigate. A gun is no different than a soda. It's the same. As a matter of fact, there is no constitutional law that specifically talks about sodas or cigarettes. So there's no amendment in the Constitution that says you have a right to a soda, but we all agree that you should be able to walk down this road with a soda. But when you walk down the road with a firearm, oh no, stop him. He's out there to commit a crime. That's just the way it is. Even though there's no evidence. Now, they were saying, well, he was walking towards a school. Okay, then you put police officers there at the school, and if he shows up at the school, then you stop him. Because now he's committed a crime because you're not supposed to have guns on the school property. Make sense? They train us like little monkeys how to be scared of certain words like assault rifle. So we're scared of it. It's an assault rifle. Must ban assault rifles. Well, you can literally take a .22 rifle with a wooden stock and just regular rifle, and you can strip it all down and put all kinds of parts on it to make it look like a assault rifle. Very scary. All of a sudden it's become deadly because it looks scary. So the state of Illinois has decided that the 3D printer is a weapon of war because they have just written a law that says that if you own a 3D printer or you want to buy a 3D printer, you have to fill out the FFL paperwork, at least that's how I understand it, to get a background check to own this machine. Now remember, the machine can make all kinds of things, just like the CNC machine. So they don't require you to have a background check for a CNC machine, but these 3D printers, you might make a gun, so we got to have a background check on you. So if you have been convicted of crime, you cannot buy a 3D printer. Well, that's pretty sad. You've been convicted of crime, you get out of jail, you think, how am I going to make money? Nobody will hire me. I have an idea. I'm going to go to Walgreens and buy a 3D printer. I don't know where you get them at. I think Costco sells them. And I can make these widgets all day long and people will buy them. It'll be like candy. Oh no, you might make a gun. Now what they're doing, the State Patrol in New York is sending groups of 9 officers door to door. Well, I don't even think it's door to door. What they did was they got a list of people who bought components to make their own gun, which I'm sure is illegal in New York. So they bought it off eBay. eBay gave them the State Patrol the list of people who bought these components. They're going door to door asking, hey, did you buy these? You still got them? Where are they at? Of course, nobody's admitting to anything. Where's your warrant? That kind of stuff. So that's good. People are learning. ask for a warrant. But it is getting to the point where the government is finally starting to control the people. If I told you I was making a homemade gun, I can bet you 90% of the comments in the comment section would say, you can't do that, that's scary. Are you gonna register it? Are you gonna get a serial number on it? What are you gonna do? No, I'm gonna come around here and I'm gonna shoot it just like I'm gonna shoot my 22. They've convinced us that a gun needs special permission when it really isn't any different than a soda. A beer disguised as soda is just as dangerous if you get in a car as a gun. So if you'll click this up next box to take you to a video where I was talking about the IRS seized my bank account for being on YouTube. So if I can inspire you to stop being afraid so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.